The transit hub existed in that uncomfortable middle space between nowhere and everywhere, a metal lung breathing travelers in and out of the galaxy. I was leaning against a vending unit that proudly advertised drinks no species actually enjoyed, arguing with the machine in 3 languages because it kept insisting my credit chip was emotionally incompatible. That was when I noticed her standing a few meters away, perfectly still, as if the chaos had agreed to leave her alone out of respect. She looked human enough to make my brain relax for half a second, same general shape, same quiet posture. But then the details caught up. Her ears were long, elegant, sweeping back along her head like a deliberate design choice rather than a mutation. They twitched slightly whenever someone passed too close, and I had the strange impression they were listening to things I couldn't hear, like the echo of memories. She held a small case against her chest. Not luggage. People who carry memories don't swing their arms. I went back to wrestling with the vending unit, mostly because staring felt rude and partly because the machine had begun to threaten to notify station security. "All I want," I muttered, "is something warm that doesn't glow." The machine responded by dispensing a cup of something purple and steaming aggressively. "That one tastes like regret," a voice said beside me. I turned. She was closer now, close enough that I could see faint lines near her eyes. Not age exactly, more like wear. The translator implant lagged half a second, then smoothed her words into my language with an apologetic chime. "You've tried it," I asked, "once during mourning." She paused. That was a mistake. I laughed before I could stop myself, then immediately felt bad, but she smiled. Small, quick, like she was borrowing the expression. The tension eased, not gone, just lighter, like artificial gravity dialing down a notch. We stood there, 2 strangers orbiting the same bad decision. Around us, aliens argued with customs drones, children of mixed species chased holograms only they could see, and the station hummed with the low, comforting sound of systems that mostly worked. "You're not from this sector," she said. "Is it that obvious? You keep apologizing to machines." Fair point. We found a place to sit near a viewport where a cargo ring rotated lazily, hauling someone else's problems toward someone else's planet. Conversation came in uneven waves. She spoke carefully, as if every sentence passed through a memory filter before being released. I filled the gaps with harmless stories, jobs that went nowhere, a failed attempt to learn Martian chess, the time my ship's AI decided it was an artist and locked me out of navigation to finish a poem. She laughed then, really laughed. The sound surprised both of us. There was a moment, quiet and unannounced, when I realized the weight she carried wasn't invisible to me anymore. It sat there between us, acknowledged but not poked, like a sealed crate marked fragile. "My bond partner died 3 cycles ago," she said suddenly, ears lowering a fraction. "Since then, most conversations end before they begin." I didn't know the right interstellar protocol for that, so I told the truth. "I'm bad at endings," I said. "I tend to stick around too long." Her eyes stayed on the stars beyond the glass. "In my culture," she said, "choosing again after loss is complicated." I shrugged. "In mine too, we just pretend it is." She turned to me then, really looked at me, as if measuring something internal and unfinished. The station lights reflected softly along the curve of her ears, and for a second the entire hub seemed to hold its breath. "May I ask you something?" she said. I nodded, not yet knowing that the question would rearrange things I thought were fixed. "Would you choose someone like me?" she asked. Without thinking. I didn't answer her right away, mostly because my translator implant chose that exact moment to freeze, projecting a helpful message into my vision that read, "Emotional context unclear. Please blink if confused." I blinked. Twice. She watched this with polite concern, her ears angling forward as if they were trying to tune into my internal panic. "Is that a human mating ritual?" she asked. "Only when we're underqualified," I said. "Give me a second, my brain is buffering." That earned another small smile. The question didn't go away, though. It hovered between us, heavier than before, like artificial gravity set just a bit too high. Around us, the station continued its indifferent life. A maintenance drone drifted past, humming off-key. Somewhere, an alarm announced a minor hull temperature fluctuation that no one reacted to, which meant it was either harmless or very expensive. I don't think anyone chooses anything without thinking, I said finally. But I do think sometimes the thinking happens so fast it feels like instinct. She considered this, head tilting slightly. Instinct is respected among my people, she said, but trusting it after loss is discouraged. Yeah, I said. We have a similar rule. We just break it more loudly. We didn't resolve the question then. Instead, we did what most intelligent species do when confronted with feelings too big for a public space. We changed locations. She suggested a nutrient alcove on the lower ring, one that specialized in cross-species meals and mild disappointment. The lift ride down was quiet but not uncomfortable, filled with the soft whir of gravity stabilizers, and an advertisement insisting I would be happier if I replaced at least 60% of my organs with certified upgrades. The alcove was dimmer, warmer. Booths curved around each other for privacy, though the privacy was theoretical at best. We ordered food by pointing at images and hoping for the best. I ended up with something that pulsed gently. She assured me it was normal. Between bites, she spoke more freely. About her homeworld, where the sky fractured into colors during solar storms. About her bond partner, spoken of without drama, but with a quiet precision that suggested love carefully remembered. I listened, occasionally interrupting only to ask questions or to complain when my meal attempted to crawl back onto the plate. "You don't look away," she said at one point. "From what?" "From the parts that make people uncomfortable." I shrugged. I've been uncomfortable most of my life. I built up a tolerance. She laughed again, and this time there was less hesitation in it. Her ears lifted, relaxed. The sight did something subtle to me, like a system recalibrating in the background. Later, as we walked along the observation ring, we noticed the looks. Nothing dramatic, just the slight pauses, the second glances. A human and a widowed alien woman, long ears unmistakable, walking side by side without the appropriate emotional distance. I felt a flicker of annoyance on her behalf. "If it helps," I said, "they stare at me when I'm alone too." "That does help," she said solemnly. "Shared disgrace is comforting." We stopped by the viewport again. Ships slipped in and out of dock, each one carrying beginnings and endings in equal measure. She rested her hands on the railing, fingers light, as if ready to let go. "In my culture," she said quietly, "asking the question I asked you is not casual." I guessed. It is an invitation, and a risk. I leaned beside her. "I'm very good at risks," I said. "I'm terrible at plans." She looked at me then, eyes searching, ears angled not forward or back, but somewhere uncertain in between. The station lights flickered, and for a moment everything felt suspended. No past, no future, just this shared orbit. "I am not asking for an answer yet," she said. "Only honesty." I nodded. "Then here's mine. I don't know where this goes. But I know. I don't want to walk away pretending I didn't feel it." Her fingers brushed mine. Not a promise, not a bond. Just contact, real, warm, undeniably present. For the first time since we met, the silence between us didn't feel heavy at all. By the time the station announced my departure window for the third time, the words had lost all authority. They floated through the corridors like polite suggestions, easy to ignore if you were already somewhere you hadn't planned to be. I was sitting with her in a quiet maintenance garden, an absurd pocket of engineered greenery meant to remind long-term residents what oxygen used to smell like. The plants were labeled in 6 languages and one set of chemical warnings. One of them hissed softly whenever someone got too close. "They don't like sudden movements," she said. "Neither do I," I replied. "That plant and I have a lot in common." She smiled, but there was tension beneath it now, a careful stillness. The question she had asked me days ago had not gone away. It had simply followed us, patient, waiting for the moment we stopped pretending it was hypothetical. Her people's liaison had contacted her that morning. Mine had contacted me too, mostly to remind me of policies I had never read. Words like asterisk inadvisable asterisk, asterisk complicated asterisk, and psychologically premature were used generously. Apparently, falling for a widowed alien woman with long ears and a quiet gravity well of grief counted as a logistical issue. "I am expected to return home," she said, fingers brushing the leaves of a plant that immediately recoiled. They believe distance will simplify things. Distance is great at that, I said. It simplifies everything right out of existence. She looked at me then, really looked, as if comparing the person I was now to the one she'd met arguing with a vending machine. You are different, she said softly. Yeah, I admitted. I noticed it's alarming. Before meeting her, I had been very good at drift. Contracts, short-term docking permits, relationships that expired naturally without confrontation. Loss had always seemed like something other people survived. Watching her carry it, not dramatically, not loudly, just honestly, had rearranged my internal furniture. I could no longer pretend that avoiding pain was the same as avoiding meaning. We walked together toward the central ring, where departures were processed by machines that did not care about emotional arcs. A customs drone paused, scanned us, hesitated, then asked if we were declaring an interspecies attachment. I said no. She said not yet. The drone seemed relieved. At the gate, the moment finally arrived, stripped of metaphor and humor. She stood facing me, ears lowered slightly, hands folded in a way I had learned meant restraint, not fear. You never answered me, she said. I know, I said. I wanted to be sure the answer wasn't just comfort talking. And now, I took a breath. The station hummed. Somewhere, a ship misfired its docking clamps and apologized publicly. Now I know that thinking has never saved me from the wrong choices, I said. But instinct has saved me from becoming nothing. So yes, I would choose you, even knowing the weight you carry, even knowing what people will say, especially knowing it. For a moment, she didn't move. Then her ears lifted, slow and certain, and something in her posture eased, like a long-held brace finally released. In my culture, she said, voice steady, that answer creates an obligation. I smiled. I've been meaning to try those. The aftermath was less dramatic than expected. There were forms. So many forms. Temporary visas, cultural adjustment evaluations, one awkward seminar about mixed-species domestic misunderstandings that involved diagrams neither of us understood. People stared, some disapproved, some smiled quietly as if reminded of something they'd lost. We didn't erase her grief. It stayed, honored, part of the shape of our days, but it no longer stood alone. We built something alongside it, shared routines, laughter over translator errors, long conversations beneath artificial